Hi, students. This is just a quick video to go over an error that I have seen in a lot of your papers and that I pointed out to you in my comments on your essay twos and probably a little bit in your essay ones too. It has to do with explaining the context of quotations. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to learn how to smoothly integrate quotations. And if you haven't read the very short article and watched the very short video on our Canvas page under the do for essay 2 that's about smoothly integrating quotations, I really suggest you do that. It's super important to know how to make a quotation sandwich and to know what that means. You are going to be integrating quotations throughout your college career. And if you're good at it, and it's just a matter of practice to get good at it, it's going to make a huge difference in the essays you write for not just English classes, but for all your classes. So invest the time, it will totally pay off. But one thing that I haven't talked about too much yet is how even if you have a quotation sandwich, even if you lead in with a signal phrase, give the quote, and then have some explanation about the quote after the quote, which is what a quotation sandwich is, sometimes you also need to set up the quote a little bit more before the quotation and explain or remind the reader about the situation in which it appears. If you don't, it can really throw your reader off. I'll show you what I mean. This is kind of an example from someone's paper. I played around with it a little bit, this person was talking about how sometimes code switching can cause us to betray ourselves in our personal code of ethics. She wrote, in the essay, The House Where My Husband Doesn't Exist, author David Califf describes how code switching allows him to hide his homosexuality and his same-sex marriage from his grandmother when he visits her as she is dying. The code switching helps David keep his grandma's respect towards him, but later on he feels guilty. He writes, comma, but his blessing did not redress my offense. That I chose to betray our marriage to keep the family peace did not neutralize the treachery. So in that quote, you may already hear it, but it's really confusing because this writer gives this quote from Califf, and in the quote he says his blessing, but we don't know whose blessing Califf is talking about. So all this writer needs to do is explain the context of the quote before the quote, the situation in which the quote happens a little bit more so that the quote will make sense and it won't confuse the reader. So all I did to fix this was Califf describes how code switching allows him to hide his homosexuality and his same-sex marriage from his grandmother when he visits her as she is dying. The code switching helps David keep his grandmother's respect towards him, but later on he feels guilty. And this is all I added to give some context. He thinks about how his husband had told him it was okay for Califf to hide his marriage. And while Califf saw his grandmother, his husband was content to stay at Califf's mother's house. Califf writes, but his blessing did not redress my offense. That I chose to betray our marriage to keep the family peace did not neutralize the treachery. Do you see the difference? It's just the writer in this case, I'm just giving a little bit more information. So when I get to that part about his blessing, I know exactly what the quote is referring to. So it's a very slight adjustment to make, and it will make your quotations, the integration of your quotations so much smoother. I'm going to give you one more example. This is taken from another student's paper. However, code switching can sometimes be dishonest because it lets us hide who we truly are. In her essay, N-Word as in English, Keisha Casada Turner writes, to remain popular and cool, I had to become opposite of a part of me. I don't know if I wrote that in right. I had to pretend not to be a good student. So here, I'm not quite following why she couldn't be herself and what that all has to do with code switching. So what was she, why was she feeling pressure? So again, I just added a little bit. In her essay, N-Word is in English, Kisa Casada Turner describes how, as an enthusiastic student, she sometimes didn't fit in with her peers who were less enthusiastic. So she code switched. I could even say a little bit more. So she code switched by speaking, African American slang with them instead of the standard English she was so proficient at or something. She writes, to remain popular and cool, I had to become an opposite part of me. I had to pretend not to be a good student. So that's what I mean. If you looked back at my essay 2 comments, and remember, you should be able to see the teardrop comments on the paper itself, the comments in the comment box, the rubric, the error codes. If you're having trouble finding any of my comments, let me know. I will help you over Zoom. It's so important for your success in this class that you and I are having this dialogue through my comments on your papers. And if you're missing that, you're missing an important part of the class. But if you see in my comments, if I say you didn't explain the context of this quotation well enough, I hope this video helped you see what I meant. And if it didn't, come see me and I'll help you. So I've been meeting with some students over Zoom and it's been really fun. I don't know if it's been fun for the students, but it's been fun for me. I love giving one-on-one help. So please take advantage if you're feeling it all stuck. Okay, thanks.